The wind outside is 50 degrees below freezing. You do not check a weather app, you do not turn up a thermostat, you just listen to the wind and know instantly whether tonight is survivable. For roughly 20,000 years, this was not a hypothetical. This was Tuesday. That number marks the last glacial maximum, the coldest point of the most recent ice age. Glaciers a mile thick sat where London and Chicago now stand. Sea levels dropped over 100 meters because so much water was locked into ice. And across the exposed, frozen plains of Ice Age Europe and Asia, small bands of humans were not just surviving, they were thriving. How? You had no thermostat. You had no synthetic fabric, no down jacket, no central heating. What you had was fire, fat, fur, and each other. And it turns out that combination is more powerful than most people assume. Start with your body. Modern humans evolved in Africa in warm climates with bodies built to lose heat, not trap it. Long limbs, sparse body hair. None of that helps at 40 below zero. So the advantage was never biological. It was cultural. Anthropologist Ian Gilligan has spent years studying exactly this question, and his research points to one conclusion. Clothing itself was humanity's real fur coat, not decoration, not fashion. A second skin, sewn together out of necessity. And the evidence for that sewing is startling. At Denisova Cave in Siberia, archaeologists uncovered a bone needle with a tiny-eyed hole, dated to roughly 50,000 years old. Think about what an eyed needle actually means. Not draping a hide over your shoulders like a blanket. Fitted, tailored, layered clothing. Sleeves, hoods, seams, tight enough to trap warm air against your skin. That is the difference between a fur wrap and a functional cold weather suit. You can see the results of that technology at Sungir, a 34,000-year-old burial site in Russia. The bodies found there were covered in thousands of small ivory beads, arranged in patterns that only make sense if they were sewn onto clothing. Archaeologists could trace the outline of trousers, of shirts, of hats. This wasn't survival gear thrown together in a panic. This was engineered, decorated, and worn with pride. So picture it. Picture a day in your life 20,000 years ago, somewhere on the frozen plains of Ice Age Europe. You wake up inside a dome-shaped structure built from mammoth bones and hides, the kind found at Mezhirich in Ukraine, where entire dwellings were constructed from the skulls, jaws, and tusks of dozens of mammoths stacked and layered like a frame, then covered in skins. Inside, a fire has been kept alive through the night, not roaring, just glowing, tended in shifts, because letting it die means letting the cold in. You are not alone in that shelter. You are one of many bodies pressed close together because shared body heat is not sentimental. It is thermodynamics. Sleeping in a group can be the difference between waking up and not waking up. Researcher Olga Sofer studied something almost invisible. Faint impressions of woven cord and netting pressed into fired clay at sites across Central Europe. That means these communities were producing textiles, twisted plant fiber into rope, cloth, even baskets, tens of thousands of years before anyone assumed weaving existed. Ice Age life was not just spears and animal hides. It was string. Cordage held together clothing, shelters, tools, and traps. Without it, almost nothing else works. You eat. And what you eat matters more than most people realize. Ice Age diets were heavy in animal fat, not because anyone counted macros, but because fat is calorie-dense fuel for a body burning enormous energy just to stay warm. Lean meat alone can actually be dangerous in extreme cold, a condition sometimes called rabbit starvation, where the body cannot metabolize enough energy from protein alone. Fat was survival currency. Marrow, cracked from bone, was treasured. Here is the counterintuitive twist. You might assume Ice Age humans were simply tougher than us, biologically hardened against the cold, in a way modern people no longer are. That is not really true. Anthropologist Richard Lee's landmark studies of Hunter-gatherer societies, though conducted in warmer climates, revealed something that applies just as well to Ice Age survival. These were never solitary struggles against nature. Survival was a group project, built on cooperation, shared knowledge, and constant small acts of maintenance, mending a seam, tending a fire, passing down which plants meant medicine and which meant poison. The real technology of the Ice Age was not any single tool. It was the network. Knowledge passed from elder to child, skills specialized and shared, a shelter that took multiple hands to build and multiple bodies to keep warm. Take any one person out of that system and drop them alone into the cold, and even the best hunter would struggle. Keep the group intact, and you get something remarkably resilient. And it is worth pausing on the timescale here. Anatomically modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. Farming, cities, written language, all of it is a blink at the very end of that story. For the vast majority of human existence, this cold, cooperative, fire-tended way of life was simply what being human looked like. Now think about your own life. You still do almost everything Ice Age humans did, just outsourced. Your jacket is their sewn hide. Your furnace is their fire pit. Your grocery store is their fat, rich marrow bone. Even your instinct to gather with people you trust when things get hard, that impulse to huddle close, to lean on a group instead of facing a crisis alone, is not some modern coping mechanism. It is 300,000 years of tested strategy, still running quietly in the background of your brain. The wind outside is 50 degrees below freezing. You still do not check a weather app to know if you are safe. You check whether the people around you have your back. That has not changed in 20,000 years. It just does not feel like survival anymore. It feels like being human.